As you were warned about during the Biden administration, rolling blackouts. You thought it was going to happen during the Biden administration, but it didn't. But you were getting closer to it, especially with the proxy war against Ukraine. Now it's here. Shalom, first and foremost, likes to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem, Ruka Kadash. Doblanos, Zeals and Apostles, Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth with sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four quarters of the earth to claim this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem, Ruka Kadash, Bracha Tum. So here it is, the energy grid collapsing on purpose. You know, because you heard about rolling blackouts during the Biden administration now, leading towards Trump, you know, who has waged this war they couldn't get out of, right? The third woe that cometh quickly, because no matter how much he tries to step out, he falls further down the ditch because King Bibi won't let him go. Because once again, King Bibi is a higher rank than Donald Trump. I mean, King Bibi, even though Donald Trump is definitely that fierce king and cruel lord, yet at the same time is totally on the cock of King Bibi, who happens to be higher over Babylon the Great, right? But this fierce king and cruel lord rules over Babylon the Great and has sold everyone out. As everybody knows, he did not make America great again. He didn't bring back anything. But what he did do is he merged the militaries together, aka reinforced the NDAA. Basically, everything he said against Barack Obama, he reinforced it from Obamacare on down, because yeah, the micro CHIP is coming, you know, via the healthcare system, via the money transit system. He's just getting everything going. He's steamrolling this Operation Warp Speed, you could say, right? Because COVID 2020, you know, Donald Trump was behind that as well. So everything leading to where he's at right now, and that is merging. You know, taking the NDAA, which was started in the Obama administration, but now finalizing it. See Trump getting the final Trump card, right? You know, basically finalizing it. The New World Order is here. And like everything else, so, well, the energy grid, the rolling blackouts you were warned about during the Biden administration, but now it's coming to fruition with this war that they can't get out of. So get prepared, because Jacob's trouble, well, it's coming. A lot of it's already here.
America's electric grid. Seems like this is a story we've been talking about for decades. Remember the New York City blackout? Remember that? And all the members of Congress are going to get on the same page, make sure that never happens again. Yeah, nothing happened. So are we teetering on the brink of disaster? Once again, this week, the Department of Energy issued an emergency order for the Southwest Power Pool across 17 states to deploy extra power and prevent blackouts amid extreme heating on our fragile infrastructure. Doesn't matter if it's extreme heat or deep freezes like we saw across Texas just a few years ago. Remember, that's when Senator Ted Cruz flew to Mexico, I think it was. Anyway, joining me now to unpack all of this in America's fragile electric grid is Mike Adams from naturalnews.com. And he, the other day, tweeted something really fascinating, put a big infographic just showing how fragile America's electric grid is. And that's why I wanted to invite you on. Mike, great to have you back on the show.
Hey, thank you, Clayton. It's always an honor to join you. I appreciate the invite.
My pleasure. The pleasure is all mine. So this is obviously the news catalyst, hearing from the Department of Energy, just sort of reminding Americans, like, hey, you know, we're fine to send billions of dollars to Ukraine or to build drones for war. We're fine to send billions of dollars to Israel, USAID programs around the world, funding drag queen shows in Lithuania, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. But America's energy infrastructure is still shit. And it just, when I saw that, I just couldn't believe it. Once again, just a reminder of our fragile infrastructure. Just at the high level, what did you think of that?
Well, this is a problem that has been engineered in our country for many decades, spanning multiple presidents. And personally, I really blame the climate alarmism cultism, the climate cult, which, and I'm a published food scientist, and so I can say, as a scientist, I would say that anybody who doesn't understand that carbon dioxide is good for plants is not very informed. Carbon dioxide is good for Earth. It greens the planet, it grows more forests. If we had higher levels of CO2 in the atmosphere, this is very small, it's barely above 400 parts per million, which is a tiny fraction. If we had higher levels of CO2, we would actually have higher crop yields. We'd be able to feed more people. And studies have also shown that higher levels of CO2 in some plants produce more nutrition in the same crops. So the climate agenda was not only about shutting down our energy infrastructure, canceling pipelines, canceling the construction of the power plants of all kinds, but it was also about causing global crop failures and reducing the nutrition of foods grown all over the world, and sort of trapping marginalized third world nations in a cycle of endless poverty from which they can never escape, because there's not enough CO2 for farming to achieve abundance in those countries. So you see, I know we're here talking about power, but it's a much bigger picture. It's really the war against CO2 has all these effects of keeping us with failing power grids, multiple grids in the U.S., but also contributing to global famine that you know is going to get worse because of what's happening with the war right now.
No, that's such a great point. When you think about it, and you bring up the great, when you said engineered, they've done this on purpose, haven't they?
Yes, absolutely. Now, think about Al Gore, right? So he was sort of the champion of the climate change agenda, or that narrative. And look, I admit, in the early 2000s,
motherfucker,
when I didn't know any of this stuff, it was pretty convincing. It was like, oh, humans are destroying the planet, and we have to stop using energy. All combustion engines are bad, we were told, and all air conditioning is bad, and being human is bad, and we can't use energy.
Well, I was right there with you. So, hand to the heavens, I'm not going to sit over here like I knew any better. I was right there with you. I believed inconvenient truth. Al Gore standing there on stage showing us the sea levels rising. And
I read that movie too.
Miami, parts of New Jersey were going to be underwater as a result of it. Coastal cities would be wiped away because of our overuse of fossil fuels. And then it turns, then I started studying and I started researching. And then once you start doing that, you realize, wait a second, the reason we have food, the reason we have medicines, the reason we have hospitals that run and are able to provide incubators for babies is because of fossil fuels. And no, your vegetarian, vegan farms, whatever, destroy more animals than do sustainable, grass-fed, all of that. Anyway, all that to say, I was right there with you.
Well, it was a very convincing narrative, and it was a human guilt narrative to place guilt upon your shoulders for being human. But you notice that the Paris Climate Accords and all of those efforts that the U.S. signed on to with the EU and other countries, you know which country never signed on to that nonsense? China. China, because they knew that it was just political BS. So China spent all that time building power infrastructure and power diversity in their infrastructure. So, regardless of whatever your audience thinks about China or the politics or the leadership, they certainly were very smart about, they built coal-fired power plants, gas plants, but also massive solar installations. China has more solar than I think any other country in the world. Massive wind and massive hydropower. The Three Gorges Dam being, the most recent example, and they're working on another dam that's even larger than that. So China has built a power infrastructure that now gives China this leadership position in AI, training and inference, because AI is power hungry, massively power hungry. What's the cost of a kilowatt hour of energy in China? It's about 8 cents, or maybe it's 8.5 cents for consumers. What is it in Connecticut? What is it in Virginia? I don't know, 30 cents or 25 cents or something. We pay more.
Ours in Colorado just went up 30%.
Wow. Yeah, and see, that's what's going to happen. Because so the U.S. is at least 20 years too late in building electrical power infrastructure. And when Trump comes along and says, well, we're going to build 10 AP1000 nuclear power plants, Westinghouse, it's their largest model. And initially you think, oh, that's great, we're going to have all this nuclear power.
20 years from now.
Yeah, like in the year 2042 or something is when those might be done. But the problem is that's only going to be a drop in the bucket of what we need. Even all of those nuclear power plants will only add, I think, about 100 terawatt hours annually to the total power grid output. And the U.S. power grid output is something like 4,500 terawatt hours annually, something in that range. It was only going to add 100 to that number. While China is doing over 10,000 terawatt hours annually and growing. So, China produces more than twice the electricity that the United States does. And electricity production is very strongly tied to GDP, to industry, to innovation. So, and by the way, this is not all Trump's fault, obviously. This goes back to Obama. This goes back to Bush, and Biden, of course. This is
and it goes back to the Clintons.
Yeah,
giving away our uranium production to the Russians. And completely stopping any kind of mineral production in the United States. So yeah, this is crazy. This precedes all of them, really.
Yep, it's really, this is a way to cut off the blood supply to America's economy. This has been a suicide pact of shutting down energy in order to appease lunatic climate cultists who don't understand a thing about science. They don't understand botany. They don't understand the role of CO2. That's why they had to fake all their graphs, like the hockey stick graph. They had to fake all the temperature data to try to scare everybody into compliance while they're actually shutting down civilization. And we're paying the price for that big time today.
So there you have it, though. Everything leading up to where we are today, but that's not all. You see, like everything else, though, you've got a food famine, etc., but you got rolling blackouts as a threat. And you need absolute power, especially if you have something like a multi-palm that needs cooling. And you need the power to run the coolers. Because like everything else, without it, you're screwed. And that's what they're doing deliberately. They're doing it deliberately.
All of it.
So here we go. This is the war going on, right?
Even Saudi Arabia. The big wake-up call came when the Houthis struck a Saudi refinery. Again, there's people that have been on your show that like to talk about Ukrainians striking Russian refineries, and they say, the devastation of it. Well, every single one of those Russian refineries gets brought back into service a week and a half later. It's a temporary disruption. The Houthi just struck a Saudi refinery. It went boom. It didn't go pop. It went boom. Compare and contrast the flames coming out. That place is off the grid for years. And now the biggest Saudi oil refinery was also struck as a warning sign. Donald Trump was told by his advisors that if you initiate this action, irreversible harm will be done to the global energy security regime, and it would be permanent harm to the Middle East. It would trigger not just economic catastrophe, but again, I just want to remind people that the oil doesn't just produce diesel and gasoline. That's how we see it in America. We look at high energy prices. Oh God, this is tough. Oil produces everything.
This is a bombshell dropped by Scott Ritter, former U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer and former UN weapons inspector. Ritter is no fringe figure. He witnessed firsthand how the American intelligence machine operated during his time in Iraq. He recently cut straight to a fact that has Washington sitting up uncomfortably. Iran has destroyed the only hope keeping Trump's war plans alive. At the same time, the Pentagon's long-standing lies, used to inflate Trump's ego and those of his warmongering circle, have completely collapsed in the fire of this conflict. Ritter's assessment aligns perfectly with my own analysis. This is not pro-Iran propaganda. This is battlefield reality. Remember the warning issued by the late Ali Khamenei before the 40-day war broke out? He said this new war would be a regional war. Look around now. Those words have come true, word for word. And America is trapped in the very fire it ignited, unable to move. If you support truth-telling and oppose hegemony, please hit like,
There we
share
go.
this video, and drop a comment below. Even if it's just a dot.
So there we go. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Please click that subscribe button.
That
to support
ditch
independent,
that
honest
Esau
journalism.
dug
Twitter was
for
blunt.
himself.
America wants to go to war with Iran, and Washington would attack as soon as it was confident its weapon stockpiles were sufficient. But here's the problem. The U.S. war machine projects that it would run out of ammunition halfway through the campaign. Think about that. The world's most powerful military machine is planning a war it can't even afford to fight. Even more disgraceful, Ritter exposed a shameful truth. U.S.-Iran policy is effectively being written by a think tank in Tel Aviv, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He described it as an appendage of the Israeli Foreign Ministry. That means American foreign and military policy is being hijacked by a lobbying group for a foreign power. The Pentagon's generals are living in a fantasy world, where every one of their statements is disconnected from the brutal reality on the ground. Now let's look at how this fantasy world is crumbling in real time. Just yesterday, the situation escalated to a new level of intensity. U.S. Central Command confirmed that American and Saudi forces carried out precision airstrikes against Iran-backed militants inside Iraq. But note, these so-called militants are actually Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, a paramilitary organization recognized by the Iraqi state and formally integrated into Iraq's armed forces. The joint U.S.-Saudi airstrikes targeted PMF headquarters across multiple Iraqi provinces, including Diyala, Saladin, Nineveh, Karbala, and Basra. In the Nineveh plain near Mosul, the 4th Battalion of the 30th Brigade and the Anti-Armor Directorate headquarters were hit by 7 airstrikes, killing at least 8 members of the 30th Brigade and 2 from the Anti-Armor Directorate. As of the latest information we have, the death toll has climbed to at least 20, with another 32 wounded. Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi has ordered an emergency meeting of the National Security Ministerial Council. What is this? It's an outright massacre of legitimate armed forces within a sovereign nation. It's a brutal trampling of Iraqi sovereignty. What right does America have to join Saudi Arabia in killing Iraqi soldiers on Iraqi soil? And what's the pretext for these airstrikes? America says it's responding to over 30 drone attacks launched by Iran and its allies over the past 72 hours, targeting U.S. forces and Saudi energy infrastructure. Fine. Let's look at what these so-called attacks actually are. At almost the same time, Iran's military announced that in the Strait of Hormuz, 3 oil tankers that ignored warnings and continued on unsafe and illegal routes were struck and forced to halt. Iran's military explicitly warned, the illegal interference and orders of this child-killing American army will not go unanswered in this region. This isn't aggression. This is a sovereign nation exercising its legitimate right to safeguard its territorial waters. What right does America have to dictate otherwise? Now let's look south. Yemen's Ansar Allah movement has completely reshaped the strategic landscape of the Red Sea. After announcing a policy of besieging in response to siege and imposing a naval blockade, Yemeni forces launched 2 large-scale military operations on July 25th. The first operation used dozens of ballistic missiles and drones to strike Saudi Aramco facilities in Jazan. The second operation used ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones to strike Aramco facilities in Yanbu on the Red Sea coast. What do the latest satellite imagery and thermal data confirm? Clear burn marks around an Aramco spherical storage tank at the Yanbu bulk plant. Even more devastating is the Al Hamrani Fuchs blending and grease plant in Yanbu Industrial City. Thermal data shows massive fires of approximately 120 megawatts erupting at both ends of the facility on Saturday, with most of the plant appearing to be completely destroyed.
People who are watching the show, look at your desk, look at everything's on your desk. Oil played a role in producing almost everything you have here. The crops that feed you, fertilizer comes from oil, sulfur, ammonia, byproduct of the oil refining process. When you shut down 25% of the world's ability to produce fertilizers, that means 25% of the world's agronomy isn't getting the fertilizers necessary to produce the crops necessary to feed the populations. We aren't just talking about an energy crisis where gas prices go up. We're talking about a global famine that's going to happen if Donald Trump did this. We're talking about Europe being overrun by hundreds of millions of desperate refugees. We're talking about Africa unable to sustain populations surging across into the Maghreb, into North Africa, fleeing into Europe, coming through Turkey, into Europe, because they are desperate. Again, a challenge I give to anybody in your audience. Stop eating today. Just try it. Tell me how hungry you are tonight. You're going to be pretty hungry, but you'll be okay. Tomorrow, don't eat because there's no food. You're going to start to get grumpy because your body's going to start saying, hey, I'm hungry, I'm starting to consume myself. The 3rd day, you're not going to be grumpy, you're going to be weak. You're going to be standing up eating a little like it. On the 4th day, you realize that if you don't eat, you're going to die, which means you're going to do anything necessary to get food. On the 1st day, you're a civilized person. On the 4th day, you're an animal running around murdering people to get their food, breaking into homes to get their food, because if you don't, you die. That's what's about to happen to a significant portion of the global population if they're denied access to food. They will starve to death, and when they starve to death, they're going to start to move to where the food is, and where the food is in Europe. And so I think, Trump has been briefed about this reality. And I think he understands that it's over. There's nothing he can do. Now, there may be Pete Hegseth one last, so let's go in with special operations forces and take the Ukrainian or the Iranian nuclear material. That'll just lead to a lot of dead Americans on the ground. There's no way this is going to succeed. Trump needs to preempt that now. We lost. It's over, Donnie baby. Your gamble failed. You need to get out of this thing. And now he just has to find a graceful political exit.
So, there it is. 2nd Ezra chapter 15 and 16 go into this global famine, which is being caused by the war. You see, World War III is a trigger event, you know, the preemptive to World War III, you could say, because it does end in nuclear destruction. But you can see that everything is broken down. You know, the further and further the escalation goes, and you can see that it's a widespread conflict. Saddam Hussein called it the mother of all battles back when they attacked Iraq. Well, Iraq just got attacked again. And then yet, Kuwait has no defenses whatsoever. Anybody could grab Kuwait right now because of the fact that, you know, those bases have been destroyed, and anybody could grab Kuwait. If Iran wanted Kuwait, they could get him. So could Iraq. But the U.S. has no defenses whatsoever. Kuwait, you could say, is lost, but all the oil's lost, and this is all being done on purpose to usher in the new digital dollar. It's all about AI and data centers, you know, that's the new petrodollar. Oh, here we go. More strikes against Iran, right? You know, because Donald Trump responded to the attacks against Jordan, which Jordanians didn't want the U.S. in Jordan to begin with.
مثلا آمریکا هستش تضعیف نظام جمهوری اسلامی و شکستن محور مقاومت منطقه است. همچنین شنیدم که دیروز احتمالاً می‌کنم به هشت شبی عراق هم حمله کرده و متاسفانه منم احساس می‌کنم که مسئولین کشورمون نیز دارن در بابت حملات آمریکا و اسرائیل در منطقه از جمله ایران به کوتاهی‌هایی دارن می‌کنن. بنده جزئی از ملت ایران یه جوان ایرانی خواستارم که در کنار
Sorry, I don't have the translation. But obviously he's voicing his anger over the terror strikes against Iran.
جنگ بزرگی پیش نمیاد و به نظر من جنگ فرسایشیه. به نظر من ترامپ هم همچین تصمیم و نظری داره که جنگو به قدری طولانی کنه که مردم و برای جهان عادی بشه، مثل
یه سودی ببره. هم خودش هم همپیمانانش، ولی خب اینکه ایران پیش دستی بکنه.
Sorry, I don't have the translation. We'll just go on to the next. But there's more, right? Okay, Slovakia. Let's get out of this. And so with all the escalations up, well, this shouldn't surprise you, right? You know that if the oil's being destroyed in every way fucking possible, that means that all these car companies, well, unless they're building electric cars, which there ain't going to be very many of those anyways, and they're a joke to begin with, pretty much. So totally dependent on the electric grid, but it still depends on energy to generate, right? But if they have rolling blackouts, you ain't going to have that either. So electric cars, BMW to cut 8,000 jobs. Car maker reportedly plans to slash its global workforce by 5% late 2027, of course, because you now got AI taking over the jobs, with Germany accounting for most of the reductions. German's auto giant BMW is planning to slash 8,000 jobs globally by the end of 2027, according to several news outlets. German workers expected to be particularly affected as the manufacturer is dealing with high production costs in Europe as well as plunging sales in China, according to reports. Yeah, because everything's about the electric car now. But wait, there's more. It ain't just BMW. Because, believe it or not, the other one, Porsche, is also doing the same thing. Porsche to cut over a third of German jobs as auto crisis deepens. Porsche is preparing to cut more than 1 in 3 jobs. So a whole third is getting cut off. Germany under a cost-cutting measure intended to protect its remaining workforce and existing production sites until 2035. And we already know how good a Porsche car is. That's one of the best cars. Well, it ain't surviving with this crisis deliberately brought in. The Stuttgart-based sports car manufacturer will eliminate a further 5,000 positions as its main Zuffenhausen plant and Westphal Development Center, combined with reductions, are already announced. Around 8,900 employees are expected to leave the company. Cuts are due to be carried out without compulsory redundancies, primarily through natural attrition, partial retirement schemes, and voluntary severance agreements. Porsche plans to defer 3.5% of its current and future collectively agreed pay increases for employees covered by company special salary arrangements. So one part of it gets raised while the others. So here we go. Porsche's latest measures follow a previous agreement to remove around 1,900 jobs in the Stuttgart region by 2029, as well as the expiry of approximately 2,000 temporary contracts. So there we go. The company has been hit collapsing sales in China, U.S. tariffs, so there we go, Donald Trump, and costly investments in electric vehicles that have yet to produce the expected returns. So, yeah, his tariffs had a lot to do with it too, as well as a push for electric cars. And so, you know, you get down to the other, and you got to be rich if you own a home. You know, even to rent a home, you got to be rich. Housing affordability is a global issue. Well, no shit. I mean, who the fuck has money? Only if you're rich. Housing affordability has become a defining well, it's not even whether you own the home or not, just to rent. So you put that all in one. It's definitely an issue. I mean, don't even get started on this, right? Apartments are fucking outrageous too. They don't fix anything in those, but they tell you what kind of dog you can and can't have. And they most certainly don't fix anything when you put on the list. You know, us that are poor have to deal with slumlords. They don't fix fucking anything, but certainly tell you, you know, and they spy on you, have neighbors spy on you, etc. To make sure that, we saw you over here. Yeah, this video over here of you doing this. Well, that's what we got over here. So, you got nothing but fucking bullshit. It's all bullshit. Oh, wait, no, it's Trump shit. Using data from UN Habit World Cities Report, Visual Capitalist Dorothy Neutrofield created this map comparing median home prices with annual household incomes across more than 180 countries, revealing where buying. Oh, yeah, okay, this is for those that can afford to buy a home. Fucking even trying to rent it. Are you fucking kidding me? Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have the lowest home price to income ratios in the data set. Interesting, but I mean, the list goes on. It's global. So you got 181 there. That's interesting that Syria's on there, right? Why is housing affordability a global challenge? Data shows that housing affordability depends less on a country's overall wealth than on how closely home track the people can afford it. Ultimately, you know, it's all collapsing. But like everything else, so you know, King Bibi is when he came over here a couple days ago, he was bragging about this merger, you know, where the U.S. now fights for Israel, like we didn't know that. But you know, combining their military, so IDF will be coming door to door, you know, and making sure that you have the MOTB and bulldozing your homes and just destroying everything, destroying all your infrastructure, taking you out of the street, raping you and fucking you. Because that's what they do in Gaza. It's coming here to Babylon. You 2/3, you're in big trouble because the Most High ain't going to have you. And yes, some of us, the elect, will also be martyrs. But we have a greater lifespan coming, meaning that we're going to be in the kingdom. So whatever else we lose on this side, we're going to gain in the kingdom. And that's what we're fixated on. You know, fuck this world. We're not trying to survive in this world. This world has got to go. Esau's got to go. We're not trying to survive. Well, we are looking to survive to wait for Yahushai's return. That is the elect of us. But we're not looking to settle here. Fuck this place. Anyhow, this is what's going on. Bragging about the NDAA, King Bibi. While everybody sucked them off.
Welcome Welcome to the Base Report with Frankie Stocks here on the Stu Peters Network. I'm your host, Frankie Stocks. Thanks to everyone for joining me for this evening's broadcast. It is Wednesday. We are once again at that midway point in the week, and we once again have a whole lot of news, a whole lot of information, a whole lot of propaganda narratives out there to slice through here this evening. We're going to jump right into it, and we're going to start with this, the latest dog and pony show on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. I'm looking over at the screen I've got set up here in the Base Report studio right now. I've got the four square. You guys know the drill. I've got the four square set up, 4 cable news networks, 4 streams of propaganda coming to you all at once. And all over the screen are headlines about the so-called doctor, Anthony Fauci, the rat-faced traitor, the rat-faced genocidal criminal, who appeared on Capitol Hill today, and he invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times. Of course he did. Was anyone surprised? This is yet another one of these, again, dog and pony shows in D.C., where there's a build-up, oh, Rand Paul's coming to get him. Rand Paul, who's totally sold himself out over and over and over again. This guy was supposedly like the Thomas Massey of the Senate. Remember that? And this is Ron Paul's son. How about the Ron Paul of the Senate? But Rand Paul, he sold himself, he sold his constituents over and over and over again. And he still pops up. He's still part of this narrative. He's still part of this screenplay as some kind of truth seeker. And then you get stuff like this. It's endless hype for the past couple of days. Every time I turned on TV, every time I climbed over to cable news, there would be some story about the coming Rand Paul hearings and how Rand Paul was about to get to the bottom of the scamdemic. Burks, she was on News Nation this morning doing an interview. So there's been a buildup around this. There's actually people out there who believe that so-called doctor Anthony Fauci, who believed that war criminal Anthony Fauci, a guy who undeniably committed genocide against the American people, along with many more, including Donald Trump, including members of the United States House of Representatives, members of the United States Senate, where Rand Paul's a member. And therein lies the problem. You see what I'm getting at here? It's Fauci. It's beyond invoking the Fifth Amendment over 100 times. Yeah, of course that's going to happen. But they're also going to lie. They're also going to mislead every chance that they get. Twist up every word to make it mean something else. And then weaponize it against you. Weaponize it against me. Weaponize it against the American people. I mean, we know how this is. It's like these congressional, these Senate and House hearings. I mean, just think of what all the charade that we've seen around the Epstein file release. And bringing in the Epstein clients to give testimony. They bring in Bill Clinton, and he's laughing it up with members of Congress. He's flirting with Nancy Mace. And it's just all a big ha-ha. It's all a big funny joke to everybody. So again, they build these hearings up as if something's going to happen, and nothing ever happens. And why does nothing ever happen? Well, because these people are guilty all around. Fauci's accomplices, they're all over the government. They're in the White House. They're in the Capitol. They're asking him questions. They were doing it all day today. They called the hearings in the first place. All these people play for the same team. And you know, we'll have another example later on in the broadcast about these people all playing for the same team. They're all part of the same club, and the American people ain't in it. And this was really just a quick mention to start off the show. Our lead story is something that we scratched the surface of during the Base Report segment last night, live with Stu. And these are the cyber attacks on this country's water supply. Now, last night I mentioned that across Minnesota, more than 30 community water systems have fallen victim to what's being described as a coordinated cyber attack. Now, at this point, local governments are not telling citizens that they need to change their water usage, that they need to have any alarm, anything of that nature. Now, do you believe the government? I mean, hey, I think this is a shining example of why we shouldn't be drinking government water to begin with. Don't drink the government water. We don't have this problem. But that's obviously not the case for hundreds of millions of people in this country who are hooked into and who are using municipal water systems or community water systems that are regulated just like municipal, or managed, I should say, just like municipal water systems, pumped full of chemicals, and hooked in to constant electronic monitoring, hooked into the internet. That's how they're hacked. And we've got a news story here with some more details on the Minnesota cyber attacks in particular. But this is a national trend, and this is something that really ties right back in to another conversation that Stu and I had during last night's live. And it was, we're all on the edge of our seats here, awaiting that false flag moment. You can sense it, it's in the air. There's been, talk about a build-up to these fake Fauci hearings. How about a build-up to a mass casualty event on American soil? How about a build-up to a false flag attack, or a chemical attack, or another biological warfare attack on American soil? How about an attack on American infrastructure? When I say infrastructure, I'm not just talking about roads. I'm not just talking about bridges. I'm talking about water. I'm talking about the electrical grid. I'm talking about the things that feed and power our lives. And this, again, we're going to start here with the stories out of Minnesota. But this is a national trend that's being blamed. Here's where the false flag part of this comes in. Being blamed nationwide on Iranian hackers or Iranian-linked hackers.
Yeah. But who's in control of data centers?
We're supposed
Israel, right?
Sign off on more war because we're being told that Iranian hackers are cyber attacking our water systems all over the country that have been hooked in to vulnerable systems by our government in the first place. So anyways, let's jump in to this story here. This is on the local Fox 9 affiliate out of Minnesota. Cyber attacks target several Minnesota water facilities. State authorities respond. At least 4 Minnesota water facilities in Plymouth, South St. Paul, Maple Plain, and
It ain't no goddamn cyber attack. It's done deliberate.
I'll have to ask how to say that one. Water plant saw a brief outage, but it's back in operation. All 4 cities say residents can continue with normal water use and the water is safe to drink. At least 4 Minnesota cities, and this again encompassed 30 community water systems across at least 4 Minnesota cities, are reporting cyber attacks that have impacted water facilities on Monday and prompted a response from state authorities. Water facility attacks. What we know is officials in Plymouth, South St. Paul, Maple Plain, and Braham, somebody tell me, announced on Monday they were dealing with cyber attacks at their respective water facilities. In Plymouth, the attacks targeted their water towers and lift stations, which started Sunday overnight. In South St. Paul, its water utility system was hit. In Braham, the city's water plant was knocked offline for a brief period. And in Maple Plain, officials said the attack targeted tech used to support portions of the water utility system. However, Maple Plain officials were able to keep operations going without issue. Now, in a news release, Plymouth City officials said the issue seemed to be impacting a number of cities. Other officials said that they were aware of at least 4 other communities that were impacted. Right now, it's unclear if one single actor is responsible for all of the attacks or not. Officials from all 3 cities say that residents can continue with water use as normal and the drinking water is safe. Now, I assume that they mean from all 4 cities say that residents can continue with water use as normal and the drinking water is safe. Now, regardless, what do we know? We know that municipal drinking water, we know that government drinking water, it's not safe. It's not safe. But being opened up to whatever this is, whether it's a legitimate cyber attack, because of course there are people out there who want to hurt us. Of course there are people out there who want to fight back, who want to respond
Mostly the government.
to the attacks that this country's occupied government has unleashed on them in other corners of the world. It's this country's occupied government on behalf of Israel has invited itself in to country after country after country like Iran, and now stands here shocked, assuming they didn't do this themselves when a cyber attack takes place.
So there we go. So you can see where all this is going, right? Infrastructure attacks to be blamed on Iran, right? You know, that Iran's doing cyber attacks. Well, you heard a lot of this rhetoric. It just happens to have accelerated. You heard a lot of that rhetoric even from the Biden administration, right? You know, that was Russian hackers, right? Well, now, you know, shifting to Iran. U.S. bombs Iran after Trump vows to beat the fucking shit out of them. White House promised harsh retaliation for the attack against American terrorists. U.S. launched a powerful bombing raid against Iran after U.S. President Trump warned that it was our turn to hit them, following Tehran's missile attack against American terrorists in Jordan. You know, like everything else though, you know. And it says beat the fucking shit out of them, but on other ones it says bomb the fucking shit out of them. U.S. starts bombing after Iran. Well, U.S. starts bombing Iran after Trump's threats. U.S. Central Command announced on Wednesday night that it began launching airstrikes against Iran after President Trump threatened to launch. On Wednesday morning, Trump told Fox News reporter that the U.S. was going to beat the fucking shit out of Iran in response for the attack. Okay, beat the fucking shit, not bomb them. I thought he said bomb the fucking shit out of them. But nonetheless, Trump decided that the strikes, you know, that the surprise attack, said that the U.S. troops just minutes before intercept the missiles. Yeah. Basically, he's unhappy because, a preemptive. Because they knew that you were going to strike them, so they did something about it before you had a chance from there. Rescuers search for survivors on Koshim Island after U.S. kills toddler and parents. So what do? They killed these citizens. Because they're good about it. Remember, bombing schools are fun. A mother and father and child died in the attack as U.S. terrorists launched wave attacks against Iran following Tehran's targeting of Jordanian base. This attack hit a civilian home, killing 3 members of the same family, a father, a mother, and a 2-year-old child. But you got to remember, for Trump, this is fun. U.S. President Trump earlier vowed to beat the fucking shit out of Iran following the attack against a terrorist base in Jordan. So, yeah. Like a raving lunatic, he's going to beat the fucking shit out of him. Like as if he's doing the fighting. Yeah, he's talking a lot of shit, but he ain't even the one doing the fighting. No, it's you pieces of shit that fucking think that, he's all this fucking great, But guess what? It's leading to your death. Go ahead and die for that piece of shit. Like the song The Dogs of War, you will die so that they may live. The warmongers. Like the fallen Lindsey Graham, like all them other warmongers, like that other guy who ended up being on Barack Obama's team, but yet was running against him. What's his name? Oh, he died a few years ago, but he was well seen with terrorists. I'm trying to remember. I can't think of his name, but he was running for president against Barack Obama. I'm trying to think of his fucking name. Well, it doesn't matter anyways, because he's dead too. John McCain? John McCain? No. I can't fucking think of it. It'll come back to me later, but nonetheless, so going on. Iran's considering attack at seaport in Ukraine following the Ukraine strike against Iranian ship, but diplomacy eased the tensions. New York Times reported on Tuesday citing Iranian and Western officials. Ukraine struck an Iranian commercial cargo ship in the Caspian Sea on Saturday, killing a civilian sailor. Intelligence sources quoted in the report said that Iran might have responded with a ballistic missile carrying out a small warhead aimed for a symbolic strike with limited damage. Other officials said Ukraine's Black Sea ports were likely targets, but they held back. So they repelled their attack, but how long will they repel their attacks? Depends on whether Ukraine does it again. And they eventually will cave into Israeli pressure, because got to remember, those are Amalekites over there too. Zelensky is nothing more than an Amalekite. IRGC strikes Jordan again after 2-hour bombardment kills Iranian troops. Civilians, Hormuz traffic creeps higher. U.S. Central Command announced that it completely launched a heavy wave of strikes against the Islamic Republic in response to attacks on American bases in the region earlier this week. This U.S. wave lasted 2 hours. Pentagon said striking military command centers, missile and drone facilities, coastal surveillance and defense sites, and maritime capabilities. Well, we'll see what their response is, right? Because like everything else, though, Iran will respond. Jordanian figures demand withdrawal of U.S. forces and cancellation of military agreement. They want them out of there. And that's why they've been providing Iran with the intelligence on where to hit them. They're fucking tired of them occupying their country, just like Iraq is, just like all these other places. They're tired of the U.S. terrorists in their country, setting up base there. They want them out. And you can't blame them for that. More than 130 Jordanian political, academic, cultural, trade union, and tribal figures have called for the withdrawal of foreign troops from Jordan, aka U.S. terrorists, Edomites. In a statement published last week, the signatories warned that the presence of foreign forces have exposed Jordan to security, political, and economic threats and increased risk of the country becoming involved in a regional war in which it had no direct interest. Yeah, what good is that going to do, being dragged into the war? Well, Israeli state is going to drag them into the war because they have to suck the cock of the United States, who's sucking their cock. A lot of cock sucking going on, And like everything else, though, they're getting fucked in the ass. Some Jordanians dare to speak against U.S. terrorist presence. Hundreds of political, legal, and other figures signed a public letter warning that Jordan's close alliance with the U.S. poses a risk. So, it's pretty much based on the same thing as from the New York Times. In recent weeks, Iranian missiles and drones have increasingly targeted U.S. terrorists and installations in Jordan, including early Wednesday. Iranian officials said the attacks have repeatedly set off sirens across the kingdom and pulled the country further into a war it wanted no part of, but most Jordanians have remained silent. So like everything else, though, they're now speaking out. They don't want this shit in their country. But the U.S. is dragging them into their shit, which the Israeli state's dragging the U.S. into their shit. Shit on shit. making their habitations desolate with them. Saudi Arabia to announce new Red Sea coalition to counter Yemen's Ansarallah. So like everything else though, they want to form a coalition, right? Another type of desert storm. You can't call it desert storm. This has to do with the other strait. Saudi Arabia is seeking to form a new multinational coalition to preempt any efforts by Yemen's Ansarallah, also known as the Houthis, to shut down the Bab al-Mandab Strait. Following Saudi airstrikes against Yemen's Sana'a International Airport earlier this month, Ansarallah has targeted oil and infrastructures inside Saudi Arabia and announced a maritime blockade on Saudi ports, including at least 3 tankers, a policy the group calls a blockade for a blockade. So, like everything else though, you know, now they're looking to form a coalition to come against Ansarallah. Saudi Arabia shutters key Aramco site in Jazan after major Yemeni attack. Ansarallah-led YAF, Yemen's armed forces, weekend operation accurately targeted and damaged the key complex within the Saudi Aramco facility in Jazan. Riyadh has been forced to completely shuttered Saudi Aramco facility in Jazan, southwest of the Gulf Kingdom. The Saudi Aramco facility is a 400,000 barrel per day oil refinery. Aramco is tentatively set to finish the repairs and restart the facility by the 15th of August. That's a long time period to be without. So, hit hard. And here we go. This is going on in Kuwait as well, which Kuwait can be grabbed by anybody who wants it. You know, it's up for grabs because there's no U.S. protecting them anymore. There's no U.S. base in Kuwait. So they've been complicit in attacks against Iran. Well, it's up for grabs now. Kuwait strips 6 of citizenship and latest revocation to terrorist society. Basically, punishing Shias. Kuwaiti authorities are continuing their national campaign of stripping individuals of their nationality, which already affected thousands. Kuwait has stripped more than 6 people of their citizenship, including the prominent Shia cleric Hussein al-Muta whitening campaign that has revoked the nationality of tens of thousands of people. Sounds like Trump's ISIS, doesn't it? Yeah, sounds a lot like ISIS. So like everything else though, you know, Kuwait is no longer a safe asylum. It was never a safe asylum anyways, and now pretty much due to the U.S., they're about to get wiped out. So I got one more here. You know, this goes into Jacob's trouble, but first I'm going to get some scriptures. So, we're about to enter the time of Jacob's trouble, which is very much mentioned here in the book of Daniel chapter 12, as we know that Yahushua is going to deliver us, which is what this next video goes into, which is titled Yahushua will deliver us in Jacob's trouble and give us life upon his return. You know, a lot of us are going to die in this faith, meaning that we were brought before Esau's judges and were condemned to die. But we only lost our physical body. We didn't lose our spirit. In fact, we'll be resurrected with Yahushua, being the first fruits. That's for those of us that are martyrs. But others of us, well, Michael's going to stand up for us as this goes into. Because we're entering into Jacob's trouble. We've seen some of it. We've seen this fierce king, cruel Lord come after us with ISIS and everything else coming at us. But, you know, even more so, things are going to pick up. Daniel chapter 12, and it reads, Now at the end time, Michael, the great angelic prince who stands guard over the children of your people, aka the Israelites, the elect in particular, will arise, and there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. You know, aka Jacob's trouble. But at that time, your people, everyone who's found written in the book of life, will be rescued. That is, having the mark of Yahweh, Yahushai, meaning that we've been spared. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the ground will awake, these to everlasting life, but some to disgrace and everlasting contempt. You know, pretty much though, that what's going to happen is that, you know, they're going to wake up dead, if you will, in the lake of fire, in this everlasting contempt, meaning that, okay, you defied the Most High, and then you wake up to judgment, pretty much. Those who are spiritually wise will shine brightly as the brightness of the expanse of heaven. And those who lead many to righteousness will shine like the stars forever and ever. And that's how I want to be renowned, as well as, the rest of us want to be renowned, right? The elect. Because we're the examples. But as for you, Daniel, conceal these words and seal up the scroll until the end of time. And there we go. We're at the end of times now. Many will go back and forth and search anxiously through the scroll and knowledge of the purpose of Yahweh as revealed by his prophets. So it takes prophets to reveal what's about to happen. We've been doing that for some time. Will greatly increase, meaning that you're going to see us everywhere before the time comes when we can no longer do it. Well, you're seeing us worldwide, via YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, lots of other places, in every language, in every tongue, warning that Yahushua is coming to redeem his elect and is about to destroy this place. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood two others, the one on the bank of the river and the other on that bank of the river, angels. So Yahushua is coming to deliver his elect, and in particularly the 12 tribes of Israel. The special elect, 144,000 for the 12 tribes, but then also 1/3. It's going to be spared, but the rest are going to be destroyed. So hopefully it's been edifying. Got one more here before I close this out. For that I want to say, Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakadash, Wa Abal Babal. Brakatam, Jehovah elect. Shalom.
Alright, Shalom. Call Lord God, Yahweh, Ba'Shem Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakadash. Double honors to the Apostle Ellsbury Millstone. Shalom to Hopeful Elect. It's been a call from GMS Cleveland Campbell real quick. Definitely a lesson. And going into this, man, yes, we're approaching the time of Jacob's trouble. We're in the time of Jacob's trouble. It's only going to intensify. And the persecution of the prophets, believers, World War III. I watched the edifying video. I was catching that from 3 days ago. Brother, the priest Yashima from Mississippi did a very edifying lesson on that. Going into geopolitical topics and keeping up the what's going on. And there's just, things are looking good, man. I was just talking about this precept of Job. I even brought it out for a little while. I'm going to bring it out a little while because, in the time to come, how about Shah, he's making the sincere brothers. We hate our lives here so much. I just consider love other lives unto the death. And we're so eager for the kingdom that we welcome these times of adversity. Of course, the spirit always wants us to watch these, chaos movies where society breaks down. The World War Z, XYZ. And I was like, I'm watching movies about pestilence. So I did a lesson, the last video was about pestilence. And there's different quarantine movies. I'm just like, man, if the Lord really does it right now, the excitement we're going to have. To think about back in 2020, I always mention it. Late 2019, early 2020, when the lockdowns came, which is crazy. That was fucking 6 years ago now. But literally, when we remember Buzz going to the grocery store taking pictures of the empty shelves, we was really laughing. Again, I don't know read the verse. It's Job 5 and verse 19. It says, he shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yeah, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. Well, these 7 troubles are talking about what? It's talking about the 7 trumpets, the 7 sounds, the 7 vials, 7 plagues. Okay, spoken about Revelation, man, the plagues of the end. All right, it's that last one, the 7th, which it said no evil shall touch thee. It's talking about that thermonuclear destruction. Because we ain't going to get burned up in the thermonuclear destruction when we brought part of that elect number, man. Okay? It says, in famine he shall redeem thee from death. Right, so in time again, when all hell's breaking loose and people, like we've seen, like the Lord actually loves witness, we actually experienced it. It was a test run, okay? When there was no food to shove, we wasn't panicking. We was smiling, we were laughing. It was funny, okay? The family, he shall redeem thee from death. We know how about Shah is going to make sure his men eat. He's going to make sure the household, okay, the men, the women and children that join to the men will eat, all right? So we're not worried, man. I was thinking about our confidence in the time to come. Don't know exactly what I'm going to give the title of the lesson, but the confidence and faith in the time to come, man. I'll probably end off on Isaiah 33:6, man. The fear of the Lord, our treasure, okay? So then, Job 5:20. In a famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the power of the sword. You have people breaking each other's houses, murdering each other. Okay, over the last king of peaches, literally. All right, and we ain't saying we ain't gonna get caught. We ain't gonna die to that. A little bit later, we're gonna have either be delivered or have a more significant death than that. You ain't gonna just starve these piling away before it's starving to death, man. And that's how you go out. No, the Lord is gonna cover the elect. It says, thou shalt be hid from the swords of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. You see, we don't be afraid, and we be eagerly look forward to it. As I'm watching these videos about society collapsing, people scared, chaos, they said people taking each other out. I was like, man, a real pestilence coming. I was watching that movie, Quarantine Part 1 and 2, about that disease that was genetically altered for rabies. Okay, and many people turning, quote unquote zombies, bite each other and shit, salivating at the mouth. Man, we would be ecstatic if that happened, man. We would be like, yes, we'd be dropping to our knees and thank you, how about Shah for judging Babylon, man. We would be crying tears of joy. We ain't gonna be fucking sad that Babylon's falling apart. It says we just shall not be afraid of destruction when it comes. Even if we get rounded up into a FEMA camp, we still gonna be laughing. Everybody gonna be sitting there wondering why we got a smile on our face, why we chilling, why we the only ones in there unmoved. Because we know how about Shah is control all this, man. And all Lord's getting ready to do, he's getting ready to judge the world, yeah. He's getting ready to try the elect's faith. All hell breaking loose and shit. But guess what? He's getting ready to try our faith. And the Lord wants us to pass. And we're part of the elect. The Lord wants us to pass. That's why the Lord is preparing us for that big day. You see? So again, we will be in a concentration camp somewhere. And like I said, or like FEMA camp, one of these makeshift centers. We're going to be in there, and everybody's going to be panicking. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, they executed so-and-so. We're going to be freaking like, man, I'm just glad the Lord's finally bringing it, man. The Lord really brought it into Babylon great. That's how we think. That's what we think right now. Every day I'm like, man, go to the job. You leave the job. I was like, man, it's almost over, man. We want Esau to come through this new world order. That's part of the Lord's will. Okay? It says, for thou shalt be, it says at verse 22, at the destruction and famine, thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth, man. So at destruction and famine, we're going to laugh, man. We're going to be laughing. All these people who's going to food in the grocery store, so what? Hey, y'all should have invested in serving Yahweh Bashim Shah. All the Israelites should have invested in serving Yahweh Bashim Shah, because he going to make sure we don't eat. All that Jesus Christ bullshit, and you want to be part of the world, and you want to be somebody in this world, and you ain't going to be able to eat whatever your accomplishments are, whatever you put time and effort into, you ain't going to be able to rely on that in time of day of trouble. All that's going to be nothing. Social media fame, the clout, all right? All that, your degrees, your job, your cars, all that's going to be nothing, man. Only thing that's going to matter is who Yahweh Bashim Shah is dealing with. That's when Yahweh Bashim Shah, he's going to exalt him in the Lord, man. This is real quick. There's more you can do in there. Other precepts. I was making this quick, man. Isaiah 33:6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh Bashim Shah is his treasure. That's going to be the stability of our times, man. It's wisdom and knowledge, understanding, man. I can reinvest it early, man. This is way better than investing in Bitcoin. All right, these people became, multi-millionaires, billionaires, invested in this cryptocurrency, Bitcoin years ago. And guess what, man? We invested in this when the whole world wasn't popular. Like I said, it wasn't popular to believe in Yahweh Bashim Shah. We were called pedophiles. We were called the bum camp. All these different things, man. How about Shah is going to show out for his men in the time of trouble? We're going to be eating. These people are starving. We're going to be warm. These people are freezing. All right? The Lord going to do major things, man. All right? So I say, man, it's just a quick encouragement, man. How about Shah? He's going to look up. He's going to look out for his men. That's why, again, Jeremiah 3:7. The last for that day is great. Okay, so none is like it. It is even time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Now, he's talking about the elect Israelite man and the women and children that's going to be doing to that Israelite man. All right? So we're going to see these Edomites suffer. These Edomites going to be starving. They're going to be murdering each other to get some food. Man, it's going to be women going to be getting ravaged. Men going to be getting ravaged. There's going to be children. All this shit. It's going to be complete societal collapse, man. Like all these movies show. But it's going to be beautiful, man. We encourage it. We welcome the downfall of Babylon. How about Shah? He's getting ready to do it, brothers. Keep your head up. The Lord is wrapping this thing up, man. Curtain call on Babylon. This place don't get that much longer. The war drums are beating. Some movies being made. Like I say, go into the details. The war with Iran is imminent. It's beautiful, man. So with that, call on Lord, how about Shah by Shem Kakadash? Love on Apostle Elizabeth Millstone. Shalom to hopeful later. We're getting ready to see Esau's inner world, and Jacob's will be doing with their followers. So, all right, because one last point. Like I said that, through the Spirit, we're getting, not only is the Lord going to be with us on the way out of Esau's world, but right after that is going to be the beginning of our world, where everything's going to be likened to how we want it. The Lord has so much prepared for his men. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first, man. These temporary, vain lives we have, we're dead to this world, and we wake up, you have the job, and you got the whatever you're doing. He was like, man, I just can't wait for the Lord to come back. But the Lord's getting ready to reward his men, the ones who brothers were sincerely waiting on him down here, man. The Lord's getting ready to come give his life. He can give us real family, real women, real rulership, real power. All our pain and sorrow taken away is coming, man. And it's coming in this lifetime. So we should be in a good mood, man. I was tired, crying out to the Lord on the way to work. After leaving, I was hopeful. I was smiling. Like, I'm in hell, but guess what? How about he's coming? He's going to come ready to come deliver me. And I believe that in faith, man. I believe the Lord's coming to deliver me as well as you brothers, man. I was speaking to myself to boost myself. I believe the Lord's coming to deliver me. How Shah's coming to deliver me? He's coming to give me life. He's coming to give me immortality and new body. He's coming to take away all my sorrows and give me a true life. In his kingdom that he inherits, Lord willing, I'm going to be a joint heir with him, and we're going to ready to rule for eternity, man. None but sunny days and good moods and happiness is coming, man. So that, call him La, how about Shah, Shalom.